The children of an old, filthy, unsightly house left their ill mother behind, expecting to return to find her dead. But when they returned a year later, they discovered something very startling. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Ida pondered how she had gotten herself into such straits as she examined the status of her ancient, unsightly house. The house in which she had lived the greatest years of her life was a rundown shanty. Not only was her physically weak and afflicted with several crippling conditions, but she was also isolated. All of her children had abandoned her, leaving her on her own. They had assisted her in navigating her daily routines for years, making sure she had the comfort and help that she required. But as time went on, Ida's health deteriorated, posing new difficulties and expectations that stretched the family's capacity to provide care. Her loved ones were overwhelmed and emotionally spent, trying to figure out how to meet her every need while also being emotionally exhausted. Their physical and emotional health started to suffer from the burden of their obligations, making it impossible for them to provide Ida the kind of assistance she needed at this point. Gradually, Ida's offspring and other relatives chose to put their own interests ahead of hers and chose to remain distant from her. For Ida, seeing her own flesh and blood turn their backs on her and the slow deterioration of the familial relationship was agonizing, making her feel completely alone and forsaken. Ida was overcome with despair when she finally managed to sit up on her bed and looked outside, seeing her once beautiful garden hidden behind the weeds that had taken over. It appeared as though her family no longer had trust in her capacity to prosper and only saw her home as a tool to protect their own pocketbook. Ida was upset. Despite having dedicated her entire life to caring for those children and putting herself last, she had been abandoned like if she were a burden. Her old age had crept up on her without any resistance, and she had gradually forgotten the energetic woman she had once been. However, she was not going to wait around for death to claim her. No, she would respond and prove to the world, as well as her kids, that she was more than simply an elderly woman with painful joints. She therefore found a way to channel her annoyance and used it as motivation to go over her boundaries. But would her tenacity be sufficient to get her through this difficult period in her life? Ida refused to let her overwhelming obstacles cause her to wallow in defeat or self-pity. She looked for more resources, conducting incessant investigation and communicating with specialists to identify substitute options. Ida's tenacious efforts led her to realize that, in addition to complementary new therapies and treatments, she actually didn't need the suggested regimeno longer require her family's support. Ida persevered against all the obstacles, and it paid off. She saw steady but unexpected improvements in her physical state with the help of a new physician. Her tenacity proved to be an invincible force that worked in concert with her medicine and therapies, gradually lifting the heavy load that had been bearing her down. Ida experienced periods of uncertainty and tiredness during her difficult road to regain her health. She was, however, reminded of her strength and her potential to regain it by her unwavering spirit. She became into a live example of the strength of tenacity and self-belief through pure determination. Restoring her health was just the start, though. Ida, inspired by her and with a fresh sense of purpose-renewed vigor, made the decision to start a new business. She looked at her overgrown yard and rundown house, which had been neglected for a long time because of her deteriorating health. Ida tackled the difficult work of repair, determined to restore her beloved home's elegance. She painstakingly planned every stage of the endeavor with unyielding focus and pure tenacity. Equipped with her unwavering will, she diligently labored day and night to bring her house back to its previous splendor. She expertly repaired the crumbling walls by removing the flaking paint, undoing years of disrepair. Ida painted the walls bright colors that were specifically chosen to capture her excitement and her renewed passion for life as soon as the walls recovered their vigor. The once depressing. Now, a symphony of colors filled the rooms, bringing life to every nook and cranny. Even starting this undertaking made Ida feel like she was 40 years younger. Ida put her all into revitalizing her garden, which had been neglected in addition to the walls. She refused to back down in the face of the tangle of weeds that had smothered her plants. She pulled every last weed painstakingly, so that her veggies and flowers could finally enjoy the sunlight and nourishment they had been denied for so long. Ida became aware of her enduring love of gardening when her home and yard were being transformed. Dedicated to establishing a sanctuary where the natural world might flourish, she devoted several hours to carefully caring for her plants, delving into the mysteries of soil composition, as well as testing out cutting-edge technological solutions to accelerate their development and output. Ida's steadfast passion and commitment paid off day by day as her garden turned into a captivating scene brimming with life. The arid ground under her unsightly home was now a bountiful harvest of organic fruits and vegetables, demonstrating the amazing result of her unwavering labor. In addition to her garden flourishing, Ida became an inspiration to her neighborhood due to her eco-friendly methods and outstanding successes, which won praise from both friends and neighbors. Driven by her aspiration to provide for her family and share her recently discovered enthusiasm for vegetables, Ida set out to sell her excess produce crops. Her advanced age did not deter her. Ida was a selfless community volunteer who worked hard to build relationships with neighbors and friends at her little company. The community enthusiastically welcomed her persistent efforts and gorged themselves on the delicious farm-fresh vegetables she provided. By means of this satisfying exchange, Ida cultivated a profound feeling of satisfaction, transforming her little business into a treasured pillar of community gratitude for her unwavering commitment and the abundant crops she shared with love. Her neighbors eventually became frequent clients and later friends. They frequently went to see Ida since they thought she was a smart woman and wanted advice on their own gardens and lives. This elderly woman who had applied for a second lease quickly captured their attention on life and took her in as the neighborhood grandmother. Although she didn't appear to miss them much, they all knew she had grandkids and children someplace. However, they never paid her a visit. A whole year later, Ida's family finally made it back to her home, expecting to discover the elderly woman had passed away. Instead, they were astounded to see the incredible change. The rundown house, which they had expected to be falling apart along with Ida, was suddenly a brilliant representation of her victory against misfortune. Their looks mixed amazement and confusion as they got closer to the door, unable to process the bizarre spectacle in front of them. They gazed upon Ida, the perfect picture of health and pleasure, as she wandered through the colorful greenery of her blossoming garden, a monument to her unyielding perseverance and strong spirit. Her family foolishly believed they could instantly partake in Ida's sudden success when they approached her. They thought they could just walk back into her life and enjoy her money, without caring that she had suffered while they were gone. But because of the innumerable obstacles and tribulations that accompanied her trip, Ida became passionately protective of the life she had created. She would always be reminded of the loneliness and vulnerability she had experienced by the profound wounds their desertion had left. Ida stood, determined to maintain her power and independence towering, her determination unwavering. Knowing full well that she had not only survived their desertion but had flourished in spite of it, growing into a strong and confident person, she took the painful decision to turn her back on her family. Her bravery, tenacity, and independence had all returned. Ida had carved out her own route, turning her life from a hopeless state to one of fulfillment and optimism. She took a lesson from her family that would always serve as a reminder of her own resilience when she left them. Sometimes, in the face of hardship, our own inner strength may overcome all other forces. It is now your turn to handle. What were your thoughts on this remarkably motivational tale? If you had been Ida, how would you have felt left to perish? And could you ever abandon your family in such a heartless manner? Please feel free to share your views and comments in the comment box below. As usual, we would love to hear from you. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.